We have to demonstrate a sustained commitment to building opportunity, creating prosperity, and righting wrongs, not just every 2 or 4 years, not just when the cameras are on and people are watching, but every single day.
There are people who are on the streets and involved in this movement who were there in '96 when the Welfare Reform Act was passed. They were there in 1994 when the Violent Crime Act was passed. They have a sense of how Clinton had a part in proliferating and spreading a lot of the problems that we're talking about now.
It's a very well thought out crime bill that is both smart and tough. And we will eventually get a good crime bill like the president has proposed. It'll just take a little longer than it should have.
In addition to what we saw, which is her speaking the talking points of the prison guards lobby, we also saw her come out to invoke the idea of super predators to push for these crime bills.
They are often the kinds of kids that are called super predators. No conscience, no empathy. We can talk about why they ended up that way, but first we have to bring them to heel.
It was never used to describe anyone white. It was always used to describe young black men as a mass, and it made life very tough for us.
Well, you know, Hillary Clinton's an old friend, but they're not friends in politics. We profoundly disagreed with the forms of the welfare reform bill.
I think it's absurd to suggest she's a friend of children who are in need or families. This is a woman who, when her husband was governor, I first met her at that time, they were bragging about their welfare reform, which destroyed what existed of support for poor children in Arkansas. Then as president, her husband, with her full-throated approval, destroyed the aid to families with dependent children, which 70% of the people on that program were children.
Senator Obama's support among hardworking Americans, white Americans, is weakening again.
Hardworking white Americans. I mean, Hillary Clinton flat out said it.
Her electability argument boils down, in effect, to working class white Americans are not ready to vote for a black American president.
Yeah, it was fairly shocking. I suppose at this rate, by the time we get to Kentucky, it'll be segregation now, segregation forever.
It happened again last week when this photo of Obama was featured prominently on the internet and attributed to people in the Clinton campaign.
You don't believe that Senator Obama's a Muslim?
Of course not. I mean, that's, you know, that there is no basis for that. You know, I take him on the basis of what he says, and, you know, there isn't any reason to doubt that.
You said you take Senator Obama at his word that he's not a Muslim. You don't believe that he's a Muslim.
No, why would I? There is nothing to base that on, as far as I know. As leaders, we have a choice who we associate with and who we apparently give some kind of seal of approval to. And I think that it wasn't only the specific remarks, but, you know, some of the relationships with Reverend Farrakhan, with, you know, giving the church bulletin over to the leader of Hamas to put a message in. You know, these are problems, and they raise questions in people's minds.
After those precedents, there are those who see a pattern to hear the kind of casual prejudice which still haunts the society voiced, and to not distance the campaign from it.
Okay, we know Black Lives Matter. We need to keep saying it so that people accept it. What do we do next?
Protesters filled the streets of Chicago today, rejecting Mayor Rahm Emanuel's apology for the fatal police shooting of 17-year-old Laquan McDonald.
This video and that death of Laquan McDonald happened before the election. What he did was cover up that information to conveniently be elected for mayor.
I don't understand, looking at the evidence that we now know is public, how any person, particularly a presidential candidate, could stand behind someone like Rahm Emanuel.
So here's what I ask of you. Hold me accountable. Hold every candidate accountable. What we say matters, but what we do matters more. A bill toward common sense gun reform, criminal justice reform, and all the like. So I think we've got a very, we've got somebody saying here, we have to bring them
apologize for mass incarceration.
Okay, we'll talk
I'm
about
not a super predator, Hillary Clinton.
Okay, fine. Now, you want to hear the facts, you just want to talk. You know what? Nobody's ever asked me before. You're the first person to ask me, and I'm happy to address it, but you are the first person to ask me here. Okay, back to the issues.
Thank you.